I don't think that is how it works.
It is exactly how it works.
That is not how it works.
It is
Your
supply-
your
it is supply
specific
and
job
demand. It is supply
your
and
specific
demand.
job is to try to make sure, as the head of the Department of Education, to make education accessible for Americans. When you create policies that make education unreachable for Americans that want that education, then you are failing at your job.
No, when there have not been caps on programs and universities have been allowed to charge whatever they wanted, and the student loan program allowed them to borrow up to whatever that university said was the cost, it was time to take action and to put caps in place.
Did you just watch a United States Congresswoman tell the Secretary of Education she's failing her job while getting basic facts wrong in real time? That's what just happened. Ilhan Omar walked into that hearing room thinking she was going to embarrass Secretary McMahon, and instead she got a masterclass in how policy actually works. She couldn't handle the answers. She talked over the secretary repeatedly, and when she ran out of arguments, she resorted to conspiracy theories about enriching private lenders. Classic. Stay right here, like this video, subscribe if you're new, and do not leave because the full breakdown of this embarrassing performance is coming right now.
I now recognize the gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, sorry to belabor this. I know so many people on both sides of the aisle have asked you about the department's decision to remove nursing, teaching, social work, and other critical occupations from the definition of professional degrees and capping their ability to receive federal loans. I know that in my home state of Minnesota, we're expecting to face a shortage of 30,000 nurses in the next 4 years. And I know that your home state of North Carolina, it is expected to see a shortage of 13,000. Our nurses obviously are limited in their capacity, they're overworked, and they're worried. So I know you said the decision is final, but I'm just trying to figure out if you can answer, why did you move forward with an action that you know is going to be creating a problem or worsening a problem that already exists?
Well, first of all, let me correct one thing. We did not remove any of these professions from a professional category. They were never characterized in the law, in the statute, as a professional category. So as these caps were put into place, and many professions were then being reviewed as to what constituted a professional category, guided by the definition of a professional degree from Congress. So that was the overview that we looked at as we were writing this new rulemaking, with the overall goal of putting caps in place that are going to reduce the cost of college.
How is that happening?
Well, I have a couple of articles here already that there are colleges.
What do they say?
They are saying that they are looking at reducing the cost of their graduate programs.
I know, but looking is not addressing the problem that we're currently seeing. What I am asking you is that you've made a decision that is currently making the problem worse.
That is not correct. Let me push back on that.
Are you saying the numbers in Minnesota that we're seeing or in North Carolina are not real?
Well, what I'm saying to you is there are shortages in those states, primarily in the undergraduate nursing program, which is not affected by this new rule and this new cap. Undergraduate programs are not affected at all by this cap.
I know, but
These are only graduate programs, so the shortage is not a result of this cap being put on. The shortage of nursing is that we don't have enough applicants into the nursing programs that are coming through our universities.
So instead of helping with the problem, you've decided to make it worse?
I don't think you ran when I talked about another way to get to an RN, an expedited program. You can get a 2-year certificate and then take the exam to become an RN.
My sisters are nurses. I do know how those things work. I'm asking you about the specific classification that you created that lowers the cap.
We didn't remove them
That's-
from a professional designation.
I know, but address the cap issue when it comes to the,
I just did, because
The
I said it
professions I
does
just
not
talked about.
impact.
but you
the
said you were trying to
undergraduate
lower
program.
the cost of tuition. How does
Absolutely.
that happen?
Because there are already colleges that are lowering the cost of their graduate programs because
Wait, what are those colleges?
there's a college in California, University of California in Irvine, and Purdue University in Indiana.
And is it for business or for
They have
nursing?
lowered them right now and for their business programs. I
Yeah,
hope
but we're
that they'll-
talking about nursing, ma'am.
Well, I hope that they'll look at other programs to
Because
reduce their
business is
costs.
not something that you had an impact on.
I don't have control over which programs they're doing, but if they have fewer applicants coming into their universities and they realize part of the reason is because their cost is too high, they will lower those costs.
I don't think that is how it works.
is exactly how it
That is
works.
not how it works.
It is
your
supply-
your
it is supply
specific
and
job
demand. It is supply
your
and
specific
demand.
job is to try to make sure, as the head of the Department of Education, to make education accessible for Americans. When you create policies that make education unreachable for Americans that want that education, then you are failing at your job.
No, when there have not been caps on programs and universities have been allowed to charge whatever they wanted, and the student loan program allowed them to borrow up to whatever that university said was the cost, it was time to take action and to put caps in place that are going
Yeah,
to
but your caps only create a funnel through the private borrowing system.
That's not true.
Yes, that is what it will do. How else
It's
would somebody, if
putting the
if I wanted to get a professional degree and I'm capped and I can't borrow, then I have to, from a public source, then I have to go private.
And
And
I-
that is what your administration is really trying to do, is trying to
No.
help enrich others on the backs of the American people. I yield back.
Let's be absolutely clear about what just happened. Secretary McMahon came in with facts, with data, with a coherent policy rationale, and Ilhan Omar came in with feelings, interruptions, and a conclusion she had already written before she ever sat down. Omar kept hammering the nursing shortage as if the cap on graduate loan programs is what's causing it. McMahon corrected her directly. Undergraduate nursing programs are completely untouched by this rule. The shortage exists at the undergraduate level. That is where the pipeline breaks down, not in graduate programs. Not because of this cap. Omar either didn't know that or didn't care, and neither option is good for someone sitting on that committee. Then McMahon explains the entire point of the policy. Uncapped federal borrowing is exactly what allowed universities to raise tuition into the stratosphere for decades. When students can borrow unlimited federal dollars, schools have zero incentive to lower costs. Zero. The cap creates that pressure. That is Economics 101. And McMahon even cited real-world examples of universities already responding by cutting graduate program costs. Omar's response? Those are business programs, not nursing. As if the principle somehow doesn't apply. And then Omar crowned the whole thing with the conspiracy kicker, that this is all a scheme to funnel Americans into private lending and enrich the donor class. That is the Democratic Party in a nutshell. When the argument falls apart, pivot to the shadowy billionaire villain pulling the strings. It is tired, it is lazy, and the American people see right through it. McMahon never lost her composure. She never took the bait. She just kept bringing it back to the facts while Omar kept interrupting, condescending, and performing for the cameras. Omar told the Secretary of Education she was failing at her job. The only person who failed in that room was the Congresswoman who couldn't keep up with the woman she was supposed to be grilling.